The next person I'm going to invite up here actually is a professor of sociology, so he works quite a bit in the collaboration space. I'd like to welcome up onto the stage Simon Lindgren. Well, thank you, Simon. So as I was mentioning, he's a professor of sociology at University of Umeå. He analyzes issues concerning power, resistance, production, and collaboration. And what he's about to talk about is how Walter Benjamin and various philosophy relates to check-ins on sites like Foursquare. So how from Flaneur to SmartMob, collectively experiencing Paris. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. In recent years, we've seen the development of a number of location-based services for mobile phones, for tablet computers. People are, as you know, increasingly logging their movements through geographical space, uploading these data to social network services. This would have been highly interesting to Walter Benjamin, who was a German sociologist. His focus was people's interactions with each other in early modernity and people's interactions with the material environment. He was specifically interested in the metropolis. He was interested in Berlin, in London, and particularly in Paris, and even more specifically in the covered shopping streets or the arcades, the passages of Paris. In 1927, he started writing a book about this, the Arcades Project. It came out after his death. He died in 1940, and it includes around 1,000 pages of reflections and analyses of these social settings. The basic idea behind this book was that looking at these arcades, we can find a sort of a condensed version of the social strategies and the social types of modern society. So using this case study, he focused again on these arcades. And as many of you may know, these are still out there today. Around 25 of them are accessible here in Paris. They were built in the 19th century and precursors to the modern-day shopping malls. He was influenced by Baudelaire, the writer, from whom he borrowed the concept of the flaneur to describe a new type of strategy that emerged among the people around the time of the buildings, of the creation of the arcades. The flaneur is an aimless stroller of the city streets, he said. Someone who is moving along throughout the metropolis for the sole reason of getting new experiences and new impressions, not going anywhere specifically. And we see a lot of parallels here. Benjamin wrote, "The space winks at the flaneur. What do you think may have gone on here?" This is exactly the type of information that we get when logging on to Foursquare, for example. We get a list of experiences that people have had here. He also wrote, a long time ago, that moving around the city is spellbinding because it's not private. It's something that we share with other people that we may not know physically or closely. The parallel is obvious here. We can log on to services like these, finding layered visual accounts of experiences that people have had in these places before. Even though we're not there, obviously, in the physical sense, we can still experience the places, no matter of time and place. If we should happen to be in these places in the physical sense, we are still getting the feeling, as Benjamin writes, that everything is happening at the same time. Or at least we can share experiences with people who had them before. Many of these systems, like Goala or Foursquare, have rewards systems or badge programs where you get points for ticking off certain places, for moving around. So in this sense, the movement becomes an end in itself. And this is exactly what Benjamin predicted. He said that with each step, ever weaker grow the temptations of, for example, the shops or the bistros or the people, the smiling women. The driving force for the modern man was to get to the next street corner, the next street name. So what we see here in the sociological sense is a dissolution of time and place, or at least a relativization. And this relativization can be potentially very powerful. Henri Lefebvre, another sociologist, wrote that space is always a social product. It's the result of how people imagine space, how they use space, how they represent space, and how they appropriate space. And what we see today with these orange little guys, the new types of flaneurs, the digital ones, is the possibility for these symbolic processes of renegotiating space to be democratized. Howard Rheingold, the American technology writer, wrote in 2002 about smart mobs, a book in which he predicted a new type of social revolution to take place, since computing became ever more ubiquitous and since people were carrying portable devices around. We see the results of this today, not only in commercial initiatives, not only in social media platforms, we see it in political projects, where the online and the offline strategies are connected to each other in projects that aim to appropriate space. This is the type of things that we're looking at in our research program back at my home university on media, places, and hybrid practices. We're really interested in getting in contact with people outside of academia to do interesting projects around this. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. So Simon took us back a little bit, took a look at history and applying a lot of those ideas to technology.